This is Ohio.
This is Ohio.
There's some stories that are really hard to tell, aren't there?
There really are. We have a friend, Heather, whose mom had Alzheimer's. It's a story that's hard to tell, but we had a feeling that she might be up for it.
So was she up for it?
She was, and so was her mom. And they both discovered gifts in the process.
Mom? Oh, she's not in here.
Heather Shaw is looking for her mom at the Sharonbrook Assisted Living Facility in the lockdown ward.
She must be out here.
She finds her mom in the dining room.
Hey, can I steal you away? Okay. I hate to.
I think I can.
Yeah, she said it was okay. We can take your tray back if you want.
We've arranged to spend some time together, Heather, her mom Sue, and me.
Thank you.
Mom, this is my friend Doug. Doug, this is my mom Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
We'll head back to your room so we can take our masks off. It'll be easier to talk that way.
Oh, yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Heather and I would like to record some conversation at this stage of Sue's Alzheimer's disease. Sue presumes the recording gear is to gather family stories and is delighted with the arrangement.
Oh, gosh. There's so much to tell.
She often shifts in her chair, and she sometimes fondles the microphone and cord. But she is excited about the family stories she longs for, but struggles to find.
I'm getting off track here. My dad loved coal mining, and he raised his family and gave them everything they needed. Not everything they wanted, just everything they needed. And so much. I find my mind has already run around a lot of rabbit trails because they go here and there and there and hey Mom, where are you going? Oh gosh, what a time.
Sue had only been a resident in this facility for about a month at the time of this recording. It was an excruciating decision for Heather to make, and one she came to only after a long process. The early symptoms of Alzheimer's, before the diagnosis, were mysterious and challenging. Sue would act in aggressive ways toward her husband, Charles. Then he would leave for a time, declaring, "There's only so much a man can take." Heather would have to leave her own young family to move in with her mom. Heather is a writer, so she tried to process her rapidly shifting reality the best way she knew how, by journaling. In the following entry, Charles has left again, and Heather is starting to seriously consider placing Sue in Sharonbrook. She's also dealing with her own health issue.
I'm sitting on the back porch. It's raining. Buddy is lying in the chair in the corner, yawning. The neighbor's tomatoes are rotting on the vine. There are 4 deer in the trees across the street. Charles is gone. When he left, he said, "Sue, know that you have been loved. Not by the best, but you have been loved." And she said, "I wish I had been the best for you." But actually, what she said first is, "I'll understand." So he repeated himself, and then she said that. And they cried and hugged, and we watched Charles pull out of the driveway. My mom collapsed against the washer. I held her for a long time. Then we went out on the porch and she said, "Buddy, you're a good boy, the best boy." Then she started packing up her medicine into a gift bag. There's a celosia plant on the table. We bought it at Wilson's. She says it's the prettiest plant she's ever seen. Last night at dinner, it was the best breakfast she'd ever had. Things are frequently superlative, sometimes good, sometimes bad. I have been in limbo. I frequently stare at the ceiling. I don't know what will hurt my back, and so I lie flat as much as I can, hoping to unpinch the nerves, to give them a break, fearing every time I stand I am furthering their damage, making it likely that my condition will be permanent. I long to move, to run, to stretch, to play, to stand on my head, to write, to walk until I'm exhausted, to dance.
Back at Sharon Brook, I'm interested in the role of mothering, of providing supportive nurturance, and about how that role has flipped for Sue and Heather. I thought it might be interesting to ask Sue what she remembers about giving birth to Heather and nurturing a small child.
Should I tell the whole story?
If you want to, yeah.
Well, becoming a mom is not always easy. And I did lose 2 children. I haven't looked at this at all for a long time, but now I almost feel like a little fire is in there. Can you hear it beeping?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Thinking about losing how many children did I lose?
Well, you had 2 boys before me, right? One you lost, miscarried, and the other was born, but died a day or 2 later. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you always told me. Is you had your first pregnancy, you lost. I don't remember how far along you were, and the second, your son was born, and lived a couple of days. Because I remember you buried him, took him to Paintsville and buried him at the head of your mom's grave. Yeah, I remember that well. We went to visit her grave and saw his grave there as well. Yeah, maybe 10 years ago.
Yep. So then he was buried at the head of my mom's grave. And he's still there.
Sue's pregnancy with Heather was high risk. Heather was born 6 weeks premature.
Do you remember how long I was in the hospital as an infant? It was a while, right?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how long, honey. I think because of the condition I was in, I was doing well just to get things straight that I needed to get straight. And, I had this cold, chilling, nervous mystery right here in me right now.
Really?
Just...
Sue is poking her body, including the microphone she's wearing. She's feeling the events of her life in a way she never did before. Touch and go.
Yeah, it was a hard time. You know, it's funny how all of the memory gears, wherever they are, can come back and just make that memory very vivid. And I think it keeps it inside too, which, if you handle it right, I think it's a good thing to keep that memory.
Then Sue tries to pull herself out of memory into a daily world, but one that no longer exists. Her own mother has died decades before. Heather tries to find a way to relate, to connect.
Heather, I'm supposed to be back, I don't know what time, but to be with Mother when she starts her... What is she starting?
I don't know.
Well, we got to go visit her.
Okay. Well, I'm going to...
When you can. I know you don't have any time right now.
Yeah. I have to go back to the office after this.
Okay.
When I leave you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. What were you going to do? What will you do the rest of the day?
Oh, well, I have to. If I work some on what you are hoping to do, I would probably need to go to one of the magazine drugstores
Yeah.
and figure out. I just think there is a lot of writing out there by people who or just love to write, and they do good work with it.
Yeah. A lot.
Yes, she does a lot. A lot.
So what will you get there?
You don't know till you get there.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe nothing.
Charles always returned to Sue. He and Heather learned about and accepted that the reason Sue was behaving in new and difficult ways was because of Alzheimer's. It was a daily struggle to know how to be with a person who had this illness, and to know what decisions to make on this person's behalf. When reviewing her journal entries for this story, Heather commented that there was never time to reflect and come to any certain conclusions. Things were always changing so fast. Again, from Heather's journal.
Mom called very confused yesterday, upset again about the house. I spoke with Charles, who told me she's having bad mornings, anxious and upset, easily angered. He has a bruise on his arm where she hit him. Charles is much more aware now, more able to cope, but I hate to see him going through this. I know how trapped I felt when I was there. When Mom is angry, it's easier to think about putting her in a lockdown unit. When she's calm, lucid, it feels cruel. The trouble is that she is both, alternating back and forth. There is little consistency. She has good days and bad days. How do we deal with those bad days, short of taking her out of her home? How do we help Charles to deal with them? I'm not sure.
Sue is most comfortable talking about Evanston, Kentucky, the coal mining town where she grew up. Heather draws her back there, and they land on a ghost story central to family lore.
I remember you talking about
The ghost that Dad saw.
the ghost is a big story. You know, I have several ghost stories.
Yeah.
Oh, ghost stories.
Yeah.
Wait,
some good
your
ghost
dad saw a
stories.
ghost?
Well, was it a
creature.
ghost or was it not?
That's the question.
That's the question.
That's the eternal question.
Yeah, that's
What would
it.
he say?
He would just stand up and pull his pants up in case they were falling down. And then he would say, I have been away from it so long. I'm losing the way he worked his magic into a real story.
Yeah.
So Heather starts the story that is retold at family events to this day.
Daddy worked the hoot owl shift. That's the way everyone starts it, right? So he worked the night shift at the mine, and he had like a long kind of gravel road that he had to walk from his house to the mine. Something stepped out in front of him in the road, and he called it, the way he described it was he called it a creature. He said it was like bigger than a dog, maybe the size of a goat. You know, it was dark, so he couldn't see it very well, but he swore that it had the head of a man, but it wasn't like a normal face. It was mangled.
When he returned from his shift, he told the family how shaken he was.
You remember him coming home and how terrified he was, right?
Our dad.
Yes.
You're talking about.
The timeline of this next part is a little shaky, but shortly after Sue's dad saw the creature, there was a tragedy at the mine.
The sirens went off in the mine, and there had been a fire in the mine, and he got called to be on the crew, to be on a rescue crew. It was a couple of days that they were trying to rescue miners, and when he finally went in, it was like a recovery crew. They knew that, whoever was left in there was gone, and your dad was working, was pulling rocks away and trying to find these last few men, and he at some point pulled some rocks away, found a body, and it was the face, he swears, the face of this man who had been sort of mangled under the rock was the face that he had seen previously, the night before.
The story has fully engaged Sue's memory gears. Heather is engaged in our current temporal reality.
Do you think Dad still remembers all that detail, and would he be willing to talk about it?
Oh, he's been gone for a long time.
Where, do you know where Dad's living now?
Oh, he passed away a long time ago. I was 10, I think. I was 10. Remember, he died of leukemia, as miners do.
Yeah.
And I remember it was New Year's Day. I think 1988, maybe, New Year's Day, that he died.
Maybe. I have to admit that's not a clear memory in my head.
I remember going down to West Virginia for the funeral. I have a clear memory of it because we didn't visit that often, so
Yeah.
it was a big deal for me to be there.
Yeah. We should get Dad to just come and sit and promise to tell all that he knows.
I wish we could.
How would that be?
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Evanston, the place among all places that Sue is drawn to now, in a literal, physical way, it no longer exists. Heather tells me this later, that when the mine closed, the town became deserted. The only thing there now are some foundations and an empty building or two. But the more her mom's center of reference moved back to Evanston, the more Heather was ready to send her mom to Sharonbrook. Charles was the last holdout, perhaps because of guilt, perhaps for other reasons. He still wanted to keep Sue home. But after one last month, he said he couldn't do it anymore. The moment was sudden, mundane, absolute.
Tonight, Charles said he can't live with my mom anymore. The reasons he gives are not the reasons, but the result is the same. We saw a band, came home in the fog. I took the dogs to the corner. The frogs in the fog were otherworldly, an alien orchestra. The moon was unflinchingly round and pale.
When it's time for us to leave, Sue sees Heather and me to the door of the ward.
We gotta get the door. I gotta punch the code in. Okay, I love you. See you next time.
Okay.
Heather punches a code into a keypad, which unlocks the door. She opens it just enough for me to slip out, and then she backs through the door.
Bye-bye.
All right.
All
See
right.
you later.
See ya.
Her mother remains on the other side, but she'd certainly
I'll see
have
you soon.
followed us if she could.
Bye-bye.
Nice meeting you.
Nice
See you soon, too.
The decision to put her mom in Sharon Brook was a heart-wrenching one for Heather. What Heather hadn't counted on was the ways her mother's residency at Sharon Brook could be a gift. In fact, we talked later about the ways in which Alzheimer's has been, at moments, a gift. Though Heather would give anything to take the illness away from her mom, she is surprised by the way Sue feels things more intensely than she ever has before. There can be more life there. In this journal entry from not long after she placed her mom in Sharon Brook, Heather reflects on how limited her thinking had been.
Saw Mom last night. It was good. She seemed settled, less angry. A new face? A family member of another resident commented that they needed Sue at Sharon Brook. She's feisty, fun, just what everyone needed to inject some interestingness into that place. How did I not see in all my calculating of possible outcomes that she would be the gift? That it is her presence that was needed and not the other way around? It is a wonderful surprise.
Sue brought up the concept of the gift when we were in her room. She was referring to me, but also, by inference, to herself.
Do you think you might be gifted as someone who would be able to walk up and pick out those you want to speak to, and you try to find the ones that you know they're just going to hang out and tell you all that you need to know?
I love that question so much.
That is a great question.
I love that question. Yes, I told her. I'd like to think I have that gift. And in talking to Sue and Heather, I do believe that I've heard all that I need to know.
We'd like to dedicate this story to Heather Shaw in honor of her mom, Sue Sinclair, who passed away several months after the story was recorded.
If you are caring for someone with dementia or Alzheimer's and looking for support, reach out to Licking County Aging Partners
At 740-345-0821.
Music for This Is Ohio by Matt Jackford.
This story was produced by you, Doug Swift, and edited by you.
By me.
Yeah, Doug Swift.
This Is Ohio is supported by Denison University Research Fellowship.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
If I don't see you first.
Tell me about this third eye you have.